And it's time for sports. Let's take a look at what is the latest, and it's got to do with the aftermath. Yes, it's the aftermath of former Chelsea striker Didier Drogba's loss at trying to take a shot at becoming the president of Ivorian football. Well, his bid indeed did not see him win after crashing out in the first round of the election. The sad thing is, he didn't even make it through the first round. He actually crashed out. Well, according to the results made available, the two-time African Player of the Year finished third behind Yassine Idris Diallo and Sori Diabete. Well, FIF election is not an open one, as presidents from top flight clubs and two lower divisions as D2 and D3 Division 2, Division 3 are allowed to vote. While Diallo accrued 59 votes, Diabate secured 51 votes, with the 44-year-old finishing a distant third after polling 21 votes. Or Didier Drogba failed to earn the required votes to cross the first round. Idris Yassine and Diabate Sari were the only two contenders in the second round. And this story has indeed sparked a lot of conversations online everywhere. And here on News Central, we're taking a look at the aftermath, what it definitely means for the former Chelsea striker, and one who has indeed put his pen to paper, saying that he will do all that he can to ensure that, that football, definitely sport, is indeed one that will become admirable, attractive, not just to the fans, not just to the teams, not just to the people, but of course to the international community. But sadly, Didier Drogba, even though his name rings a bell outside of Africa, talk about in Europe, could not even make it past the first stage. What does this teach us? Well, it teaches us a lot of things here, Rita. It also shows that sometimes big name,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't
you know,
matter.
I was actually shocked. I was like, what happened?
I mean, he was trying to go like his compatriot Samuel Eto'o, who's now the head of football in Cameroon. He was looking forward to do the same, repeat the same feat as an ex-international, and also being a former colleague of Samuel Eto'o to also be the head there in Ivory Coast. But I mean, like
Let's have a look next time, if there's a next time.
Well, next time, yes, it could work if he will also be able to wait, because he's got to wait for a longer period of time right about now and then try his hands on it again. Okay. But you see, it's one thing to be a fantastic footballer. It's another thing for you to also be a fantastic leader. Exactly, in that. But you know what we're going to do? Looking at the aftermath of Didier Drogba's loss while not being able to make it to become the president of Ivorian football. Let's bring Denis Mirpuri. Denis joins us this morning. Thank you so much for being here, Denis. Let's take a look at this story right about now, Denis. I'm sure it came to you as a shocker that Didier Drogba did not make it past the first stage. What say you? Denis, are you there? Can you unmute yourself so we can hear you properly? Hello, Denis. We seem to have a little bit of connectivity issue. If not, we will be joined by Denis, who is an ardent follower of this particular story, and he has been indeed making sure that everything is, followed completely. Well, don't forget too that Denis is one person who definitely will have a say concerning the inability for Didier Drogba to have clinched this position. Well, like he clinches goals, especially when he scores for his club and country.
Why do I start spotting that statement?
Denis, are you there? Good morning. Hi, Denis.
Probably the fans of Drogba will be happy.
All right, I'm sorry. I think we seem to have connectivity issues, not being able to join Denis in the moment. But let's move on now to another latest sports story that's definitely gotten everyone talking, especially in South Africa, not just in South Africa, but of course across the globe. Well, it's got to do with the murder trial of former Orlando Pirates and Bafana goalkeeper Senzo Miyiwa. It will resume in High Court in Pretoria on Tuesday morning, which definitely is today. Yes, it is today. As we take a look at our time here in Nigeria, it's 7:46. Over there in South Africa, it's an hour ahead. So, of course, it will be kicking off anytime soon, possibly, say, an hour next. Well, state witness Sergeant Thabo Mosia is expected to continue giving evidence. Now, Mosia, you saw him in the picture on the dailies. If you could also crop up that picture from the front paper of Sowetan. A forensic field worker, he collected evidence at the crime scene where Mayiwa was shot. Now, Mayiwa was shot at the house of the mother of his single girlfriend, Kelly Kumalo, in Vosloorus, east of Johannesburg in 2014. On Monday, advocate Malesela Tefo actually accused for number 3, threatened taking the correctional services to court. Now, this was over the alleged assault and ill treatment of Ndobisi Nkumbe, who was transferred from the Johannesburg prison to the Kogosi Mampuru maximum facility in Pretoria. Well, despite correctional service official telling the court that this was within the act to keep him there. Meanwhile, correctional services doctors say they did not find any physical injuries on accused number 3 in the Senzo Mayiwa trial. Nkumbi and 4 others have been charged with the premeditated murder of Mayiwa. So that's the story there. It's quite sad, I must tell you this, but the trial kicks off today. If you take a look at the front pages of the Sowetan there, if we can get that up, it also talks about that trial, what many are indeed expecting as well on the Sowetan. And of course, the major reason is the fact that you do have the man who will be looking at it. There you have it. That's it, the front page there. And that's the sergeant himself, Sergeant Thabo Mosia, who is looking forward to keep his eye on the ball, as you can see in there.
I was wondering why his eyes was like that.
Oh yeah, he's been doing a lot of the talking. Remember, he's a forensic expert. He was able to, this footballer, this loving star, visited his girlfriend, and of course, then he was besieged and he was shot and killed. And therefore, you had a lot of counter stories about, oh, why was he killed, possibilities, and so on. By the way, his video is still up on Netflix. You could check it out. There's a little documentary on his story. But of course, Thabo, as you see him on that front page there, isn't looking really happy. He's ready to really go in.
Well, we do hope that justice is served. I mean, generally, for this kind of cases, it takes a whole lot to make sure that the culprit is being caught. But we do hope that the officials will do their best to make sure that there's justice for this victim.
Absolutely. We hope so, and we hope that as the trial starts this morning, like I said, few minutes from now, we definitely here on News Central will be keeping you abreast with the latest. Don't forget, we are Africa First, and when it comes to covering these stories, we will go every length and mile to bring you that story. Well, let's see if we can still bring in our man. Connectivity issues, no doubt. That's one thing you have with technology. Denis Mirpuri, I beg your pardon. Can you see if you can talk to us? Good morning to you once more. Let's try again. Okay, can you unmute yourself, Dennis, so we can hear you properly? Can you try to unmute?
Now?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
Yes,
Great.
we can hear you.
Technology finally gives Dennis a chance. All right, Dennis, I don't know where we're going to start off from, but let's start with Didier Drogba not making it past the first round. He was the most preferred candidate by, in quotes, many, including his former teammates, ex-internationals, and you could say the world at large. What do you think went wrong?
Well, for the ex-internationals, if you recall, there was an earlier poll, in Ivory Coast. Most of them decided not to back him. I remember there were, interviews scattered across the media in Ivory Coast, which sought to suggest that, there was some level of envy, and this had come from ex-player on the continent, name just escaped me. But we're looking at the present, event leading up to the election last Saturday, and even, the likes of Yaya Toure, for instance, who, reportedly had issues with Drogba, and he became the most successful of the two captains in the history of captaining the Défense to the AFCON, won it in 2015 for Drogba. Don't forget that he finished as runner-up twice, so very unsuccessful with the national team, even though he had 105 appearances, bagging a total of about 65 goals, So Drogba is seen a hero on the pitch. But the question now remains, has he been able to replicate the story in the area of administration since 2017 when his career, was coming to close. He went to the US of A. You remember how he played for Phoenix Rising as the last team. He was a player, administrator, and he's one of the 17 owners of the USL Championship side in the USA, which is Phoenix Rising. Now, the question remains, what has he also been able to do in Ivory Coast? So in the administration, he's gone into club ownership. He understands the reign in Europe. Now, don't forget, these players often even pick up their coaching badges as early as when they're playing football. So he is better equipped when it comes to the European football team. But locally, this has been the concern that locally he hasn't been able to win the grounds that he needs, i.e. close voters are the presidents of the various clubs. There were 130 votes cast total in the round one of the FIF elections last Saturday, which Drogba had just about 18.54% or 16.54%, beg your pardon, and that is actually just 21 votes out of 130. And that's a landslide defeat, and it tells you that football club, who is one of 17 owners of a football club in the USA, but has no club on the domestic scene, running against the likes of Yassine Idriss Diallo, who is a businessman, former vice president, former president of AS Mimosa from 1984 to 1998. These are men who are deeply rooted in Ivory Coast football. We're talking about people who understand the terrain, also, are very close to the club presidents, understand what their problems are, and would come into, quote unquote, try and, bring the renaissance that Ivory Coast football needs. And I said quote unquote because that was actually the campaign message of Yassine Idriss Diallo, who former ASEC Mimosa boss, and also currently the vice president of Ivorian club AFAD. So he's on the ground. Now, for Sori Diabate, don't forget that he's also an vice president of the football, Ivorian Federation, or the Federation of Ivorian Football. So he also knows grounds. He's actually led the club, in what we call the club welfare body. In Ghana, we have such a body called GALCA, the Ghana League Clubs Association. So he's a board of that body in Ivory Coast, meaning that he's got his footing on the ground. So if you look at the polls, the breakdown of the election polls last Saturday, you realize that Sori Diabate was getting a lot of votes in the Division 2 and Division 3, that's Ligue 2 and Ligue 3, because he has a lot of, footing back there. But Idriss Yassine Diallo got more votes in the Ligue 1. So he's there before, he coaches, he's actually worked with ASEC Mimosa, which is a top flight team, a big side in Ivorian football. So you elect him to be, quote unquote, the man on the ground. And that's what, won the election for Diallo. To tell that story, Diabate and Yassine Diallo, Idriss went into round 2, most preferred candidate. So preferred Drogba as the man of the people, but not the man of the football administrators. They are the people who spend money on local football in Ivory Coast, and they don't seem to for Drogba because, well, one or two reasons. I'll give you a few of the reasons. Drogba, the complaints have been that Drogba sees himself as a star and therefore did not, go to the club presidents who were going to be voting, did not visit them. And how can you do that? This is ball campaigning, so this has to be improved. Drogba himself granted an interview just a few hours after the election, stating that he had made mistakes with campaigning. And this time around, I'm sure he's going to pick up the lessons. He's a young formulator. He still has a lot to learn. My advice to him, by the way, would be that he needs to get into proper administration locally in the Ivory Coast. He needs to own a football club and start getting close to the terrain, because that's going to get approval from the club football administrator when you in the was building Ivorian football. And they've got a big one coming, especially for Diallo, who's been voted into office. He is, he has a mandate of meeting the Prime Minister, the President Alassane Ouattara, to sit down with the sports minister as well and make decisions like hiring a new coach. Don't forget Patrice Baumel. He was sacked, he was released out of his contract, or it wasn't renewed. after the AFCON 2021. We all know what happened in the 16 when Egypt 5 goals from penalties. So it's been a difficult time for Ivory Coast. They haven't qualified to the World Cup as well. So there was no viable basis to give, Baumel another contract. And don't forget, he served as deputy to Ivory, one of the most successful managers in African football, though now he could in Saudi Arabia. And we'll see what he can do with in Qatar 2022. Yeah, so it's going to be a difficult one for Drogba just to put final together on particular matter. He needs to get closer to the game in Ivory Coast. You get votes just by being a star. There's a lot of
Drogba definitely has a lot to learn.
I'm sure he does.
He needs to own a club. He needs to own a club in Ivory Coast.
Dennis, I think Drogba should come and meet you personally for all this. All these tips.
Anyway, you know what, Dennis? I know we have a lot to catch up with concerning this story and more. But you know what? Hopefully we'll get to have you back so we can trash out these stories why some of the superstar footballers in Africa are not really gaining entrance into running the affairs of football in their various countries. Forget about Samuel Eto'o.
Well, they need to follow the footsteps of my former legend at Inter Milan. You know, I'm a fan.
Who's that?
Samuel Eto'o.
Samuel Eto'o, yeah.
You know, he's a strong wit man who's the building blocks in place. Right when he knew he was phased out of football career, he had another plan in place. This has been discussed recently, so we know that a lot of work goes in. You don't just play based on your stardom and expect to. We need to be part of the
system.
Considered and approved by the people.
All right. Thank you so much, Dennis. Well, thank you. Look forward to have you again. Well, like they say, you need to be part of not just the game, but of course, part of the politics. Yes, you need to know how it's played.